They didn't just find me, they padlocked my life shut. 12 locks on my gate, cameras rolling, and a hot pink HOA president declaring my driveway community property. Deliveries stranded, work on hold, neighbors trapped. Humiliation as policy. But here's the twist she didn't see. The road she stole might actually belong to me, and there's a buried clause that turns every trespassing car into a $500 mistake. If you've ever been bullied by a clipboard and a fake smile, watch till the end. Because this isn't chaos, it's courtroom justice, public apology, and a neighborhood healed the smart way. Drop a like and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm reading everyone. At 7 a.m. I walked out with coffee and saw my life chained shut. 12 steel padlocks dangled from my gate like trophies. A neon violation sign slapped the fence. A camera crew aimed at my porch as if I were a scene, not a person. The HOA president smiled for them and called my driveway community property. My jaw locked. My dogs whined behind the screen. A delivery van idled at the mailbox, boxed in. Work calls piled up on my phone, blinking like sirens. I asked for paperwork. She waved a pamphlet. Emergency rule, she said, already turning. Not a discussion, a decree. The tow truck rolled up slow and heavy, targeting my truck like prey. I felt heat build in my ribs. Breathe, don't swing, win clean, law over chaos. I filmed everything, close on the locks, close on the tow hitch, every word she said. My neighbors peered from porches, phones raised, some sympathetic, some afraid. That was the point, fear as policy. A man with a leaf blower killed the engine and whispered, "They did this to me over a mailbox flag." Patterns everywhere. I went inside and pulled the deed binder my grandfather left me. Old paper, county stamps. Survey lines like veins. I'd walked that road since I could walk. Who owns what? Not what the loudest says, what the ink says. My hands trembled as I flipped to the easement page. Something about access conditioned on agreement. Was there an agreement? I didn't remember one. My pulse steadied. I called the county clerk, hold music, then a voice. I asked for the plat and right-of-way filings. She told me to come in today. I grabbed a camera battery, a notepad, and my comm. On the porch, the tow operator hooked my axle. I warned him he was crossing onto my parcel without authority. He shrugged. "Ask the board," he said, glancing at the cameras. "The board isn't the law, the deed is." I told him a sheriff would want to see those locks. He hesitated. The HOA president laughed, a clean little cut across the morning. "He won't call," she said. I did. The dispatcher took my parcel number. Quiet focus. No yelling, no threats, just facts. Engines revved, tempers warmed, the air pressed tight. The longer they filmed, the more the story hardened around me. "Non-compliant homeowner," the caption would read. I was not giving them that, I was giving them proof. I raised my phone to the gate, counted locks allowed for the video. 12. The tow operator unspooled more chain. It scraped concrete, a deliberate grind. I looked at my deed again. One clause snagged my eye. Revocable license, fee schedule, absent signed maintenance agreement. My breath caught. If there's no agreement, the permission lives with the owner. If the owner is me, the access isn't free. The deputy's cruiser turned onto my lane, lights off, slow. The cameras pivoted. The HOA president smoothed her face. The tow chain clinked. My coffee went cold in my hand. I stepped toward the deputy with the deed and a simple question: how far does my right go? The deputy took the binder, eyes narrowing. He looked at the locks, then at the tow chain. His hand went to the radio. "Dispatch, I'm going to need a copy of Parcel 17A's recorded easement," he said. And in that instant, the show they staged started changing channels. By 9 a.m., the county office smelled like dust and toner and old coffee. A clerk slid a thick binder across the counter. Plat maps, signatures, filings. I traced a thin gray line marked private easement, ownership retained by Parcel 17A. My parcel, my spine straightened. The HOA newsletter said different, but newsletters aren't deeds. The clerk handed me an older folder, pages crackling at the fold. "Right-of-way deed," she said. "Your grandfather," my chest tightened at his name. In the margins, neat handwriting, "road use conditioned on executed maintenance agreement." I scanned the file for a signed agreement. Nothing, blank, no signatures, no dates. If they never signed, they never had automatic access. Permission is a door, someone has to hold the key. My phone buzzed, an email from the HOA attorney. Pay violations by Friday or face gate removal at owner expense. The fines stacked like bricks, backdated, meeting notices I never saw. The HOA Facebook group had me blocked, convenient. My stomach went cold, then clear. I asked the clerk for certified copies. Date stamps hit like hammers. I called a surveyor while the machine clicked. He could mark stakes today. I paid and tucked the records like a shield under my arm. Outside, the sun hit hard. I recorded a video on the courthouse steps, calm voice, tight facts, no heat. "I have the deed, the plat, and the right to set terms," I said. "We're going to fix this with law." Back in the neighborhood, the gate still bristled with locks. Amazon vans stacked in a jittery line. A school mom tapped her wheel, eyes wet. The tow truck was gone, but the message hung in the air: comply or be crushed. I kept filming, document the choke points, show the harm. The deputy met me at the corner. He'd spoken to dispatch and the county attorney. Keep it peaceful. Get your surveyor, don't touch their locks yet, he said. I nodded, strategy over impulse. We measured the crown of the lane, the drainage, the ditch. The surveyor tapped orange flags along the property line. Each flutter said boundary, not suggestion. He photographed the locks biting my fence. These are on your parcel, he said, voice dry, professional. Evidence. I drafted a notice. Cease trespass, remove padlocks, respond within 24 hours. I sent it certified and emailed the board. I posted it to a new neighborhood forum where the HOA couldn't mute me. The comments came fast, contractors, teachers. Elderly neighbors, stories spilled, fines for wreaths, paint shades, garden boxes, a pattern of punishment marketed as order. At 5 p.m. the HOA blast hit inboxes. Do not pay. Do not engage, they wrote, framing me as a threat. I posted the deed clause again, larger, no insults, just the line that mattered. Revocable license, fee schedule, absent agreement. Then I wrote the number that would split the sky. A proposed road use fee of $500 per non-emergency vehicle per day until a maintenance agreement is signed. My phone lit like a storm, some with fury, some with relief. The deputy texted, "Judge can see you tomorrow." The HOA president posted a selfie at the pavilion calling me a problem, but her smile looked thinner now. I watched the comments scroll, then turned off the phone and set my alarm for 6 a.m. Calm is a weapon. Tomorrow I'd walk into court with a grandfather's clause and a neighborhood's receipts. Some people swing in the dark. I prefer lights on. At 8 a.m. I stood under fluorescent hum, binder open to the page that mattered. The judge read once, then again slower. He looked up. No executed maintenance agreement. My attorney shook his head. The HOA attorney gestured at customary use. The judge asked for signatures. Silence fell hard. We rolled the footage of the padlocks. The tow threat, the blocked deliveries, the deputy's calm report. We handed over the plat map with the private easement stamped in black. The judge's pencil tapped the margin note, my grandfather's handwriting codified under recorded deed. The room quieted into law. He signed the temporary restraining order. The locks had to go. The fines had to stop. No HOA enforcement on my parcel until hearing. He eyed my proposed road fee. You're within your rights to set terms pending agreement, he said, but be reasonable. I nodded. My schedule already exempted ambulances, emergency crews, and elderly residents. I wasn't here to hurt neighbors. I was here to end a habit of abuse. Outside, the cameras waited. I kept my statement crisp. We resolve with documents, not drama. The deputy nodded at my copy of the order. Have them remove the locks or hire someone to do it. Don't touch them yourself. Law over chaos, enforced clean. At noon, the surveyor hammered fresh stakes. The orange flags glowed against the pine line. We posted signage at the gate, unauthorized vehicles subject to road use fee per recorded deed clause. The HOA president arrived just long enough to pose, then left when microphones turned toward the judge's order. Power hates daylight. The first invoices went out that evening. Not personal, procedural lawn crews. Real estate caravans, delivery fleets. The number was simple math, days of unauthorized use after formal notice. The portal pinged with 2 small payments and a message from a widow on a fixed income. I refunded her and hand-delivered a hardship pass. She cried, whispered that the HOA had fined her for a wheelchair ramp design. I felt something twist and settle. This was bigger than a road. At 6 p.m., I posted the maintenance offer with terms any decent board would take. HOA funds repaved to county spec, permanent senior exemption, emergency priority, snow and storm upkeep on me, transparency monthly. When the board ghosted, their attorney emailed a press statement calling me a price gouger. I posted the clause again and added the TRO. By 9 p.m. headlights stacked at the corner, cars chose the long way around. The neighborhood grew quiet, pressure builds in silence. I stood at the fence watching moths tap the porch light when a pickup nosed toward the ditch, tried to slip around the gate and buried itself to the axles. The driver cursed. The HOA president appeared like a flare, then vanished when she saw my phone lifted. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. Tomorrow, the pavilion, the crowd, the map on a portable screen. And one truth that could rupture the story they'd sold. We weren't just fighting over gravel. We were putting a leash on power. At 9 a.m., the pavilion smelled like mulch and market coffee. Folding chairs made rows of restless knees. I carried a projector, extension cords coiled like quiet snakes, and a stack of certified copies heavy as brass. The HOA board sat up front, expressions lacquered over. The president whispered with her attorney and glanced at my case like it was a live wire. I plugged in and filled the canvas with our road, plat lines bright, parcel numbers crisp. This, I said, is not a rumor. It's a record, short sentences, clean beats. I read the clause line by line. I showed the empty signature block where a maintenance agreement should be. I showed the TRO. I showed the exemptions. Calm, then punch. Neighbors leaned forward. A contractor stood. We lost days because of those padlocks, he said, voice raw. A teacher lifted a photo of a fine for a wreath. A veteran rolled forward and described a ramp the board rejected for not matching lattice guidelines. The room shifted. Injustice is loud until the facts sing, then it looks small. The president said the survey was ambiguous. I pulled up the county surveyor's affidavit. No ambiguity. The property line ran like a straight verdict. She said I was profiteering. I scrolled to the relief fund language, every dollar from fees after costs flowing to seniors and hardship cases. A little girl tugged her mom's sleeve and whispered just loud enough, "He helped Nana." The room heard it. A board member in the back stood and resigned on the spot. Another followed. The gavel hit the table and split at the handle. Symbolism writes itself when rot is real. I didn't gloat. I pointed to the maintenance offer again, unchanged. Sign this today and the fee schedule vanishes forever. Repave the lane right, post budgets monthly, respect boundaries. The attorney asked for time. I said the road would remain restricted to pass holders and emergency vehicles until signatures hit paper. Not punishment, protection. The deputy parked at the edge nodded, law over chaos, visible and boring the way it should be. At 1 p.m. a white SUV tried to dart around the ditch and sank, tires howling. People turned. The president stiffened. I kept my voice level. This is what happens when you ignore lines, you sink. The tow driver looked to me. I waved him forward, waived the fee, and told him to bill the HOA. Mercy carries weight when the crowd expects fire. By 4 p.m., I delivered copies of the order to every porch. I'd handed hardship passes to people who needed them and refused 3 cash offers from board loyalists trying to buy their way out. Same rules for all, I said. The story was writing itself, calculated revenge, not rage, clean terms, open books. At dusk I stood at my fence and felt the neighborhood settle. Fewer engines, more honesty. The deputy stopped, window down. You kept it tight, he said. I nodded, eyes on the road that had raised me. Tomorrow, discovery, subpoenas. The locked cabinet in the HOA office everyone pretends doesn't exist. And if what I suspect is inside is real, the board won't just lose the road. They'll lose the mask they ruled behind. By 9 a.m., the courthouse air felt refrigerated, like they stored doubt on the top shelf. I walked in with my binder and a spine that didn't bend. The judge scanned the file. Tap, tap, pencil on wood. The room held its breath. My attorney laid out the sequence. Padlocks, tow threat, backdated fines, blocked deliveries. We played the deputy's calm report like a metronome for truth. The HOA attorney leaned on customary use. The judge asked for signatures. None. A silence you could stack bricks on. I slid the plat forward. Private easement. Ownership retained by my parcel. The judge read the clause again, access conditioned on a signed maintenance agreement. No agreement, no automatic access. The air shifted. He signed the restraining order. Locks off, fines stopped. No HOA enforcement on my parcel. The gavel hit. It sounded like a door finally closing on a long draft. I didn't celebrate. Outside, microphones craned like birds. I kept it lean. We fixed this with documents, not drama. Cameras blinked. The deputy nodded at the order in my hand. Law over chaos, no victory lap, just steps. At 11 a.m., the surveyor flagged the line again. Orange flickers in the breeze, every flag a sentence in a language power understands. My sign went up. Road access by permission per recorded deed, non-emergency vehicles subject to fee until agreement executed. Clear, boring. Unbendable, invoices rolled at 1 p.m., not vengeance. Accounting, lawn crews, delivery fleets. Real estate caravans. A widow on a fixed income messaged me, voice shaking. I refunded her and gave a hardship pass. Mercy is a better camera than rage. At 3 p.m. the HOA blasted an email calling me a gouger. I posted the clause, no adjectives, just ink. The comments erupted. Contractors listed hours lost to padlocks. Teachers listed fines for wreaths. A veteran described the board rejecting his ramp. I felt heat, then resolve sharpened by it. By 5 p.m. 2 quiet payments pinged the portal. Anonymous, embarrassed, real. I documented everything. Screenshots, receipts, chain of custody, no loose ends to grab. At 7 p.m. a caravan of SUVs idled at the corner and chose the long route. The neighborhood's noise shrank, my senses sharpened. I heard the river beyond the oaks. I heard my own pulse. Calm is a weapon. At 9 p.m. my attorney sent a draft complaint, damages, fees, public correction, transparency conditions. I read it like a promise. If they wouldn't sign the maintenance agreement, a judge would write one into their future. Headlights swept my fence. A shape lingered, too still to be curious, too tense to be neighborly. My cameras caught the angle. I saved the clip and texted the deputy. Noted, he replied, keep recording. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. The pavilion meeting was next, projector ready, county map queued. A single sentence could break their story in half. I wound the extension cord like a fuse. Tomorrow wasn't a fight, it was an audit publicly lit, and audits change cultures faster than anger ever could. By 9 a.m., the pavilion buzzed like a hive you'd knocked once, folding chairs. Coffee steam, gravel crunching under late arrivals. I carried the projector and put the map on canvas so big no one could dodge it, parcel lines bright as lightning, my voice stayed low. This isn't opinion, click. Recorded deed, click, no executed maintenance agreement. Click, court order, short sentences, no fat, a contractor raised a hand. We lost days because of those locks. He wasn't rhetorical, he was tired. A teacher lifted a printout of a fine over a wreath color. A veteran rolled forward with receipts for a rejected ramp. My jaw flexed, I kept my cadence. Facts first, fury after. The HOA attorney said the survey was ambiguous. I pulled up the county surveyor's affidavit. No ambiguity, only a line. He said my fee was predatory. I scrolled to the exemptions. Ambulance free, elderly free, hardship honored, any good faith pass respected. The room shifted again, anger exiting, clarity entering. A board member in the back stood and resigned. Another followed, eyes wet. The gavel slammed and cracked at the handle. The sound cut through the crowd. You can't stage symbolism. It happens when truth finally gets oxygen. I offered the maintenance agreement again. Repave to county spec at HOA expense. Monthly transparency, senior protections, emergency first priority. If they signed, the fee schedule died that day. I wasn't here to cash in. I was here to lock in a culture with rules no one could bend. The attorney asked for time. Time is what the locks stole, I said. Murmurs thudded like a heartbeat. The deputy stood at the perimeter, quiet approval. The clock ticked on the speaker shelf, pressure without shouting. By noon, tires screeched at the ditch. A white SUV tried the angle and sank to the axles. The crowd flinched. I waved a toe forward, waived the fee for the driver, and told him to bill the HOA under the restraining order. Mercy, measured, on camera. You could feel the narrative rewire itself in real time. At 2 p.m., I walked the lane and handed out passes to people who'd been fair. I declined 3 cash offers from board loyalists. Same rules for everyone, I said. One of them stared like he'd never heard that sentence in a living neighborhood. At 4 p.m., I delivered certified copies of the order to every porch. I clipped one to the HOA bulletin board. I took a photo of it and posted the timestamp. No room for we didn't know. By 6 p.m. the board's email went dark. No reply, no meeting notice, no path. My attorney hit send on discovery letters, financials, minutes. Vendor lists, email logs. The cabinet rumor had a pulse now. If it lived, I'd put oxygen on it. Dusk slid down the oaks. Crickets started. The deputy rolled by, window down. You kept it clean, he said. Keep it that way, I nodded. Tomorrow, subpoenas. If their house was in order, we'd see it. If it wasn't, everyone would. Under my porch light, moths tapped glass. Power does the same thing to secrecy as soon as you turn it on. At 8 a.m., the HOA office smelled like carpet cleaner and panic. Our subpoena sat on the counter like a lit flare. The treasurer's hands shook as he unlocked a file room. A steel cabinet waited under a framed poster that said Community First. The key was missing. Of course it was. My attorney recorded the refusal. The receiver appointed by the court arrived, clipped a tag, and logged the cabinet into custody. No one touches it now without a witness. The treasurer swallowed, slid me a thumb drive off the record. This is everything they didn't plan to hand over, he whispered. Spreadsheets, vendor lists. Consulting fees repeating to shell companies tied to board relatives. Invoices labeled gate security media, padlocks, and a film crew categorized as safety. My teeth clenched, I didn't speak. I mirrored the files to 2 drives and handed one to the receiver. At 11 a.m., the county investigator called me in. I brought the deed, the cabinet log, and the thumb drive. We traced money. Fines funneled into beautification projects that aligned with friends' companies. Petty power with a billing department. The investigator's pen scratched like flint. He said quietly, we'll be in touch. At 1 p.m., my forum post went live. Not accusations, documents, redacted names, line items, a timeline neighbors read in silence then erupted. Wreath fines, mailbox paint orders, dog bowl citations, a collage of small humiliations. The picture was whole now. The road was just the headline. By 3 p.m., the HOA attorney fired off a cease and desist. Harassment, he called it. I posted the court order appointing the receiver and the subpoena list. Law is the opposite of harassment. It's a mirror. At 5 p.m., tire tracks carved my ditch. Fresh, deep. I walked the fence and found the cut, a clean slice at the mesh. A blonde hair snagged on a barb. My cameras had motion at 2 a.m., a figure in a blazer near the gate. I clipped the footage and texted the deputy. On my way, he replied. I logged the damage and emailed the receiver. No theatrics, chain of custody, night fell fast, crickets loud. Every creak of the porch sounded like an approach. I sat with my binder and a flashlight. Calm is earned at a cost. I planned tomorrow's hearing. Witness list, surveyor, treasurer, contractor, veteran, single mom, clean facts, no adjectives they could trap. At 9 p.m., the deputy's headlights washed the lane. He watched the clip twice. This helps, he said. He photographed the cut and bagged the hair. File a report first thing. He leaned against the cruiser. Keep it boring. You're winning because it's boring. I nodded and locked my door. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator's low hum. A storm threatened to the west. The first drop hit the window like a fingertip. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. and pulled the complaint draft closer. The page glowed under the lamp. Damages, fees, public apology text, transparency clause, maintenance agreement executed in open meeting. Legacy clauses to outlive board terms. You don't just defeat a bad system, you design a better one where it stood. Tomorrow we'd start pouring footings. By 9 a.m. the courtroom hummed with fluorescent indifference. I welcomed it. Indifference means the law gets to talk. The judge took the bench. He'd read the briefs. He looked tired in the way good judges look tired of bluff. My attorney called the surveyor first. Professional, precise. Stakes, measurements, drainage, line. No drama, just distances. The HOA attorney tried to shake him. Couldn't. A boundary is a boundary until a deed says otherwise. The treasurer followed, eyes darting. He confirmed the cabinet, the missing key, the receiver's tag. He confirmed the thumb drive contents matched his exports. He read line items for consulting fees into the mic. He said names. The air changed. The judge's pen stopped. He asked the receiver to describe the chain of custody. The receiver did, clean, wrapped tight. The contractor testified to lost days, the veteran to the ramp, the single mom to fines for a wreath and a letter that called her non-compliant for leaving a stroller on the porch. Each story was a brick. Bricks make walls, walls hold verdicts. The HOA attorney leaned on safety. Padlocks, he said, were a rapid response to liability. My attorney clicked play on the padlock video, laughter from behind the cameras, posing a tow threat. The judge's jaw tightened. He scanned the restraining order he'd already signed and extended it without being asked. No enforcement actions touching Parcel 17A pending final hearing. No retaliation. His voice had gravel now. We introduced the road fee schedule with exemptions. The judge read it carefully. Within rights pending agreement, he said, then turned to me. Continue hardship passes. Maintain emergency exemptions. I nodded. We already had. The county attorney stood and requested a temporary receiver for HOA finances. The judge granted it. The gavel struck. You could feel the room tilt, not toward me. Toward balance. Outside, the reporters closed distance. I gave them one sentence. We're not tearing down a neighborhood, we're putting it back in policy alignment. Then I walked, no victory, just forward motion. By 1 p.m., I reopened the road to pass holders and hardship cases with a public post. Same exemptions, same clarity, court's words attached. The comments flipped. Skeptics turned into volunteers. Someone offered asphalt at cost if the agreement passed. A neighbor left brownies on my porch with a note that said, make them pay the right way. At 3 p.m. an email arrived, settlement discussion. My attorney smiled without showing teeth. Now they're listening. At 5 p.m. the deputy texted, cabinet is being moved to secure storage under court order. Good work. I exhaled and felt my shoulders drop for the first time in days. A storm line darkened the western sky, but the air felt lighter, clean after the first rain. I stood at the gate and ran my hand along the fence, the cut already patched, the mesh tight. I wasn't guarding gravel anymore. I was guarding a precedent. Sunlight hit the orange survey flags and made them glow. Tomorrow their offer. And the terms I'd add that would make this more than a win, it would be a cure. By 8 a.m. the receiver's team boxed the HOA office like a crime scene. Chain of custody tags, body cams on. The steel filing cabinet came out with a scrape that sounded like history resisting change. Inside. Contracts with familiar last names, duplicate invoices, consulting entries that read like an inside joke. The receiver photographed every page, no theatrics, just light. Emails surfaced by noon. Threads where fines were called behavior correction. A draft press script bragging about the 12-lock solution. A calendar entry for a special meeting held at 6 a.m. with 3 board members and no quorum. The neighborhood had never been invited. The paper didn't shout, it simply aligned the shadows. I kept my voice clipped. I posted redacted evidence and the judge's orders. No adjectives, only lines and totals. Neighbors scrolled in silence, then in anger. A contractor DM'd me a year of paid delays blamed on inspection holds. A teacher sent screenshots of a warning over Halloween chalk. The veteran dropped a receipt for lattice the board demanded, then rejected. At 3 p.m. my attorney filed our civil claim, damages, legal fees, and restitution to a community relief fund. We added a transparency clause, budgets, enforcement logs, and vendor lists posted monthly forever. Not revenge, architecture. The HOA attorney fired back with a threat to sue for defamation. I posted the cabinet inventory and chain of custody log. Truth doesn't fear discovery, it invites it. The comments turned surgical. Residents began tracing vendor entities to last names sitting on the board. I didn't touch it. The receiver did, quietly, thoroughly. By 6 p.m. headlights paused at my gate. A familiar SUV idled too long. My cameras caught the plate. The deputy answered on the first ring, said patrol would swing by. I breathed slowly, counted the fence posts in the beam, remembered my grandfather's handwriting. He'd left me more than a road. He'd left me a method: write it down, sign your name, stand your ground. At 8 p.m. a storm rolled over. Thunder, a wall of rain, turned the lane into a bright string of reflections. I watched the water run where we'd graded it years ago, held by a ditch planned on a map older than the subdivision. Order holds. Even when loud people try to rewrite it. I set out passes for the morning: hardship, seniors, emergency access, stacked neat by the door. I wasn't closing a neighborhood, I was reopening a standard. At 10 p.m. the receiver called. Forensic accountants confirmed irregularities. He'd recommend a temporary suspension of board spending and a vote for new leadership under court supervision. The air inside my house felt thinner, like altitude before a view. Tomorrow hearing, not final but decisive. When people who sold fear meet pages that don't, a mask has nowhere to hang. And in that emptiness, the right thing has room to stand. By 9 a.m., the courtroom lights hummed like a simple machine doing honest work. The judge took the bench with the receiver at his right. The HOA attorney went first, talking safety, liability, noncompliance. The judge lifted a palm. Documents, he said, the word weighed more than any speech. Our surveyor marked the boundary with the precision of a plumb line. Private easement, ownership retained, no agreement signed. The judge nodded, bored in a way that protects the truth. Then the treasurer read the recurring consulting fees. He named relatives, he pointed to duplicate invoices. The air grew dense, not theatrical, consequential. The deputy testified about the padlocks, the tow threat, the midnight figure near my fence. The video played, the judge's jaw worked once. Temporary receiver for the HOA finances is extended, he said, with authority to freeze questionable expenditures. Retaliation will be sanctioned. The gavel made a clean sound. Like a cut, my road fee schedule came next. The judge read the exemptions: seniors, emergency services, hardship. He looked at me. Continue exactly as written until a maintenance agreement is executed. I nodded. We'd already built it that way. Calculated revenge, not rage. Law over chaos, printed and laminated. Reporters crowded the steps outside. I gave them one line. We're not here to embarrass people. We're here to end a pattern. They wanted spice. I handed them salt. The story had already shifted. Anger was no longer the headline. Accountability was. By noon, I reopened the lane to pass holders and hardship cases, posted the order, and added sign-ups for a volunteer repaving crew after settlement. A paving company messaged offering materials at cost. Another neighbor dropped off bottled water for workers. People want to help once they can see the table and the rules. At 2 p.m., the settlement offer arrived: repaved to county spec. Reimburse damages, void improper fines, public apology, better than expected but not complete. My attorney skimmed, half smile. Add the sunlight, he said. I did monthly disclosures, open-door meetings, independent oversight for a year, board stipends into the relief fund. The receiver recommended adoption. The board balked. The judge called a status conference for the next morning. The HOA president looked like someone holding a script that no longer matched the scene. I didn't lean into it. I turned my phone off and checked the passes for the evening. At 5 p.m. a boy on a bike coasted by and waved. Mom said thank you, he shouted, helmet bobbing. The lane was quieter, not dead, regulated. It felt like a place again. Not a pipeline for fines. At 7 p.m. my attorney emailed new witness statements: a realtor fined for a yard sign, a retiree written up for porch chairs, a mother ordered to remove a chalk drawing. None of it violent. All of it humiliating. That's how regimes work when they wear smiles. 1,000 small cuts. Tomorrow we put stitches in, and the people who sold razors would hand us the thread. By 9 a.m. the status conference moved faster than anyone wanted. The receiver laid out the numbers. The judge stared like a carpenter citing down a board. Your settlement is close, he said. Make it honest or I'll make it mandatory. The room exhaled as if remembering oxygen. We added what mattered. The sunlight clause, public budgets, vendor contracts, enforcement logs, and meeting minutes posted monthly for all time. The relief fund, seated with recaptured, consulting payments and board stipends, managed by 3 elected homeowners who weren't on the board. A legacy clause. If future boards breach transparency, road permissions revert to fees until compliance is restored. Culture, not a moment. Madison refused. I won't resign, she said. The judge leaned back. Then prepare for trial, receivership, control of operations, and potential personal liability. Her eyes flickered. The attorney whispered. You could hear the cost of pride. We called an emergency community vote under court supervision. The pavilion filled before noon. No stagecraft, folding chairs, clipboards. The veteran read the apology draft, dignified spare. The single mom read the relief fund terms. The contractor read the maintenance agreement. I read the sunlight clause, my voice steady as a level. Hands trembled as pens moved. People lined up like they were paying a debt they hadn't known they owed to themselves. A teenager filmed the count for transparency. Every ballot was a plank laid straight. The result hit at 1 p.m., a landslide for adoption. A landslide for resignation. You could feel something leave the air like static finally grounding. The judge signed the order, cementing the vote. The receiver shook my hand, then shook the treasurer's. No gloating, no jeers. Just a room learning how to stand upright. Madison signed last. The pen hovered. The page took it. She stared at the signature like it belonged to someone else. In a way, it did. The person who'd ruled by fear wasn't in charge of the future. The paper was. At 3 p.m., I walked the lane and handed out printed passes with the new logo. The neighborhood's name in clean type, the words emergency first below it. People smiled, embarrassed, and relieved. I taped the repaving schedule to the bulletin board. Work crews would start at 7 a.m. sharp. Alarms would be set. The rhythm would change. At 5 p.m., the boy on the bike rang his bell. The veteran raised a hand from his porch. The single mom set 2 bottles of water on my fence post and said, "For tomorrow." My hands shook finally, but not from anger, from the quiet after a long noise. Tomorrow, apology day, cameras again, different scene. Not humiliation, healing. And this time, everyone would know exactly where to stand. By 9 a.m., the pavilion looked like a town's first morning after a storm, a little raw, a lot clear. Folding chairs faced the mic. The receiver stood to one side. The judge's order hung in a frame. The veteran, the contractor, the single mom flanked me like anchors. The boy with the helmet coasted the perimeter, bell silent, eyes wide. Madison arrived, not defiant. Not destroyed, human. She read the apology, no spin, no passive voice. We padlocked a neighbor's gate, we levied improper fines, we used fear to enforce control, we caused harm. The words laid down like gravel under a wheel. People listened without cheering. The point wasn't to enjoy her fall, it was to rebuild the floor. I stepped forward with the maintenance agreement, county spec, emergency first, seniors free, hardship passes permanent, transparency monthly. Relief fund active today. I signed, the veteran signed, the single mom signed, the contractor signed, cameras clicked. The page thickened with ink from hands that work here, sleep here, raise kids here. At 10 a.m., the first truck rolled in. Asphalt hissed like a soft promise, shovels flashed, rakes pulled, neighbors in borrowed gloves leveled edges. The paving foreman barked gentle orders and laughed once, surprised by how many homeowners wanted to learn the feel of a straight line. We tamped the crown just right. Water ran where it should. The ditch held like a sentence finished clean. I opened the portal and refunded road fees to any neighbor who'd paid in good faith, left the HOA's bill untouched. That debt belonged where it was born. People cried quietly when their phones pinged. Not dramatic, just relief finally finding a place to sit. By noon, a small ceremony, no stage, no speeches, just a strip of ribbon across the lane. The boy cut it with 2 hands on the scissors. His bell rang once, bright as a coin. The veteran saluted. The single mom hugged me and let go fast, embarrassed. I felt a lump in my throat I hadn't invited. I turned to the cameras and said what needed saying. Power can be loud, law is steady. If your gate is ever padlocked by arrogance, do not swing for the chain. Find the clause, find the map, stand where the line is. My voice shook once. I didn't care, we didn't just win. We set rules that outlast our tempers. We named every lever. We made sunlight a policy, not a mood. And we left something on this lane my grandfather would recognize. A road held together by agreement, not intimidation. If you felt any piece of this in your chest, if you've ever been fined for breathing wrong, share this, like it, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Not for me. For the next person counting padlocks at dawn. For the road they're about to learn they own.